There are 64 hormones within the human body, but to make sure this video is as short and value-packed as possible for you guys, I'm going to be focusing on the top 15 hormones that impact on our brain and mental health, and I'll be showing ways you can use to optimize your hormonal balance for better brain health. So what are hormones? Hormones are our body's chemical messaging signals that are sent throughout our bloodstream and affect many different processes that go on within our body. They're usually controlled by a pea-sized part of the brain called the pituitary gland, which is situated behind the bridge of our nose. The pituitary gland has many effects, including controlling our adrenal glands, as well as our thyroid gland, and testes in men, as well as ovaries in women. This is controlled by a part of the brain called the thalamus, which is situated just above the pituitary gland and controls how this is balanced. The first hormone we're going to discuss is estrogen. Estrogen is mainly known for its roles in the female reproductive system, but it also plays important roles within our mood, learning and memory processing, as well as our nerve development and degeneration processes, and has been linked to increased levels of serotonin within our brain, which is one of the brain chemicals of happiness. And has also been shown that estrogen levels affect the number of serotonin receptors within our brain. Estrogen also modifies the production of endorphins, which is often associated with a runner's high. So endorphins is one of the other brain chemicals of happiness. So estrogen plays really important roles in our overall mental health. Imbalances in estrogen levels have been linked to several problems in brain function, including increased risk of anxiety and depression, fatigue, as well as disturbed sleep. And it also lowers libido in people and increases our overall body fat. Low levels of estrogen can decrease serotonin levels in our brain because it is used to regulate tryptophan hydroxylase, which is the enzyme which converts tryptophan into serotonin within our brain. And high levels of estrogen actually encourages the brain to convert tryptophan into NAD instead of serotonin. So estrogen plays a lot of roles in our mood regulation. Number 2 is testosterone. Testosterone has been linked to improved thinking, prefrontal cortex activation, lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone I'll mention later. Some key ways you can use to boost testosterone levels is weightlifting, intermittent fasting, and getting enough healthy fats in your diet, because fats are needed to make testosterone and some of the other hormones in our brain. So fats are not the enemy, even though there's a lot of marketing to talk about low fat. We do need some fat in our diet to have a healthy brain. Number 3 is DHEA, which is a precursor hormone for both testosterone and estrogen. It is released by the adrenal gland, and imbalances in DHEA has been linked to insulin resistance as well as inflammation. Number 4 is progesterone. Progesterone has been shown to regulate our cognition as well as stimulate neurogenesis and neuroplasticity in our brain, creation of new brain cells. It's important for our mood regulation as well as the regeneration and repair of our nerves. Progesterone has calming effects on the brain and has been shown to reduce swelling and even improve mental clarity after a traumatic brain injury. Low levels of progesterone has been associated with memory loss, mood swings, as well as anxiety symptoms. These are sometimes seen in postmenopausal women because progesterone tends to drop after women experience the menopause. Too high levels of progesterone can also have a very similar effect. So as with everything hormonal balance, it's a balance and you want to be within the right levels to have a healthy brain. Number 5 is cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but does play several important roles in overall brain function. Too high levels of cortisol has been linked to difficulty thinking, increased risk of brain fog, and even a loss of emotional control. So things that can affect our cortisol is when we wake up. That's when our cortisol levels are usually highest because it's the hormone that gets us out of bed and wakes us up. Other things that affect it are caffeine. Having too much caffeine can increase your cortisol level, as well as being dehydrated also increases cortisol levels. Number 6 is thyroxine, which plays important roles in our metabolism. Imbalances in thyroxine has been linked to anxiety and depression, and hypothyroidism, which is low levels of thyroid, has also been linked to lower hippocampal volumes within the brain. The hippocampus is important for our memory processing, so our thyroid levels can affect our memory and mood. Number 7 and number 8 are insulin and glucagon. These are two hormones that help to balance our sugar levels in our brain. So glucose is super important for brain health because glucose is the brain's primary source of energy, although it can use fats and proteins if it needs to. So regulating our overall blood sugar levels and having a healthy balance is important for brain function and keeping our blood vessels in our brain super healthy. Number 9 is melatonin, which is released from the pineal gland and is often associated with sleep because melatonin helps us to feel sleepy and go to bed. It's not the be-all and end-all of sleep because there have been surgeries which have cut out the pineal gland, and these patients had very low levels of melatonin but were still able to sleep completely fine. Number 10 is cortistatin. Cortistatin has many effects on our gut, but has also been shown in studies to induce slow-wave sleep as well as decrease cortisol levels. This is important for overall brain recovery, and cortistatin has even been shown in studies to protect against neural injury. Number 11 is somatostatin, which has a close relationship with cortistatin. Somatostatin is an inhibitory hormone which helps to regulate the neurotransmitters in our brain cells. Number 12 is growth hormone. This is heavily researched within the weightlifting and fitness community, but has also been shown to stimulate brain growth. So growth hormone can be stimulated and increased by doing things like weightlifting and intermittent fasting. Number 13 is adrenaline or norepinephrine. This is released from our adrenal glands, which sit on top of both of our kidneys. Adrenaline has a very close relationship to both dopamine and serotonin, so plays important roles in our overall motivation and excitement levels. It also activates the sympathetic nervous system, or fight or flight response as it's commonly called. Adrenaline is also important for our pleasure-pain balance. Number 14 is leptin, which is our fullness hormone. Low levels of leptin are seen in people with leaky gut syndrome, which is a non-medical term for a gut that isn't working properly. Leptin has been shown to turn off certain parts of the brain and influence our behavior, specifically our food intake, our motivation, as well as our learning, memory, and cognitive processes. Number 15 is ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone. High levels of ghrelin has been linked to disruption in our metabolism levels, and ways you can improve your ghrelin balance is through good quality sleep. And the bonus number 16 is PTH, or parathyroid hormone. This is a hormone that regulates our calcium levels, calcium being important to activate G protein coupled receptors involved in our dopamine pathways in the brain. And PTH also plays a role in activating vitamin D, which is essential for activating the enzyme that converts thyroxine into serotonin. So what are some things we can do to improve our overall hormonal balance within our body? So the first thing is to get blood tests, because if you don't look at your blood, you're not going to know what your hormone levels are. So if you experience things like brain fog or low libido, you can get your blood test done to look at your thyroxine and testosterone levels. So ask a medical professional for blood tests if you want to know what's going on in your hormonal balance. Number 2 is exercise, in particular weightlifting, because weightlifting has been shown to improve growth hormone as well as testosterone levels. Number 3 is stay hydrated. I mentioned earlier that dehydration increases our cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone. So to reduce cortisol levels in your brain, stay hydrated. Number 4 is sunlight and vitamin D. As I mentioned earlier, this is needed to activate the enzyme to create more serotonin in our brain. Number 5 is nutrition and overall good eating habits. So nutrition is super important for hormonal balance because we need healthy fats and proteins in our diet to be able to make these hormones in our brain. This one is super important because a recent study done in the US showed that over 75% of people in the Western world are deficient in at least one micronutrient. Number 6 is gut health and taking care of your gut. So your gut is super important for your brain and mental health because it produces and stores more than 80% of our serotonin. It's also been shown in studies that our gut produces 400 times more melatonin than our brain does. So taking care of your gut by getting fiber in your diet and taking things like probiotics in fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut can be great for your gut health. Number 6 is manage stress through different ways, including things like mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga. This helps to reduce overall cortisol levels in our brain and help us feel less stressed and more relaxed and less anxious. Number 8 is intermittent fasting. So having temporary starvation helps to increase our growth hormone levels, our testosterone levels, and even has been shown in studies to increase our insulin sensitivity to reduce our risk of diabetes. Number 9 is get good quality sleep, because sleep is when our hormone levels are replenished and restored. So if you want to learn how to get good quality sleep, I'll leave a card to that video up here. Number 10 is reduce your intake of refined sugars, because high levels of sugar can disrupt a lot of the hormonal balance that goes on in the human body. Number 11 is look at the contraceptive pill if you're a woman and you're taking it, because the contraceptive pill can sometimes dysregulate the hormonal balance, so something to be mindful of. And lastly, avoid drinking excessive amounts of alcohol, because this can really impact on your hormonal balance in your brain. So those are the top 16 hormones that impact on our brain and mental health, and some ways we can use to improve our overall hormonal balance. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button right now. Comment any questions below you have on hormones and I will do my best to get back to you. Subscribe to get better brain health, and I'll leave a playlist at the end of this video so you can watch more ways to improve your brain health. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you guys in the next video.